Okay, so we will call to order our Community Service Commission's meeting at 5:33. A reminder for all commissioners and staff to speak clearly and loudly into the microphone to ensure a quality recording is made of tonight's meeting. We ask those attending to please silence their cell phones. Item number 2, approval of the March 27, 2024 Community Service Commission meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those? Or anybody have any questions on them?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Right. Item number 3, public comments. Any person may directly address the commission at this time on any item not on the agenda or on any item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed per speaker. Any public comment? No public comment. Okay. Item number 4, inclusive playground discussion and presentation by Councilmember Laura North.
For taking time to come out to tonight's meeting. It's nice to see everyone here. So we want to start off tonight's meeting kind of with a brief discussion and presentation. We invited Councilmember Laura North to come out to kind of focus on an idea that's been spread around this commission and through City Council for quite some time, and it's the idea of an inclusive play structure or playground somehow incorporated within the city and within our community parks. There was work being done by a local nonprofit, Spirit Horse Connections, about getting an inclusive play structure on their private property for their use and for their clients. That kind of springboarded into another discussion where the city would like to kind of see something like that more for the community. And so with that, we kind of, Laura North, Councilmember North, was able to kind of take those ideas along with other groups that had put a playground together, just a general idea. And she worked with the Kings Estates developers on potentially having an actual space, like a dedicated park that's coming in on phase 5 of their developments, to include something like this on a grander scale than we could possibly include at one of the community parks. So that's kind of where this idea kind of springboarded from discussions that this commission has had in the past, along with interest from other community members. We do have, just if you want to pull up the Spirit Horse, we do have a design that was kind of put together by community members, especially with community members that have kids that have special needs that would utilize something like this. So Spirit Horse, again, was the organization that kind of came up with this idea of this particular playground that was themed for their use. They sought grant funding from the Kingsburg Healthcare District, but that didn't go through this cycle. And so then that kind of led for us to kind of say, well, hey, maybe this is something that the city can kind of adopt and go forward with an actual developed space, which would potentially be the Kings Estates phase 5 area of the park. So kind of that's just kind of a brief background of kind of how we got here today. Like I said, Laura North is here to kind of give a little bit more detail, and I know she has some printouts that she's presented on your desks. And so with that, I kind of just pass it over.
Thank you. This idea came about, I think, because my role, part of it is with the city, but also with the school district. And so I've heard from several parents about their children not being able to access many of our playgrounds. And so I remembered that the commission had brought this up several times also. I also met with a group of Girl Scouts that came to like a little mock city council event, and the issue that they brought was inclusive playgrounds or a sports park is what they also brought. And so I talked to Dave Crinclaw, the developer for Kings Estates, probably in December. It's like, hey Dave, I know you're going to put in a phase 5 park. Like, we have an idea for that. And I told him, I said, what about an inclusive playground? And he said, let's do it. And so I hadn't really done anything more about it, but when we had the Kingsburg Healthcare District grants, I happened to be sitting next to the team from Spirit Horse, and they stood up and they presented their grant. They were asking for grant funding for this project, and they had talked about that they had met with the Game Time company and designed it. Like, they had already gone through the whole process with the families that would benefit from it. I just heard their comments about a playground like this means like their whole family can go. Their child that is in a wheelchair, or they also had it set up for kids that might have sensory issues or like help with autism, those sorts of things, where all their kids can play together, and there isn't really a place like that in town. So when they presented about it, I talked to Carrie Gerke, who did a lot of the work, and I asked her where she got the plans, who she had been working with. Well, they didn't get their grant. So they didn't get the grant from the healthcare district. So I met with Spirit Horse, and I said, what if we work with the commission and with the city, and where the newest park is going to go in next at Phase 5, and look at making that an all-inclusive playground. And so she happily shared her plans. Jennifer from Game Time is the rep that they've been working with. It was coincidental at Kings Estates anyways on their other park, so she's familiar with the developer, and she's the one that did the plans for Spirit Horse. So she came and sat with Carrie Gerke and I, and we were thinking maybe this is something that you would want to move forward on, because like the plans are pretty much already done, and then just maybe change colors or things like that. But we met with Jennifer, and she showed us all the other ones that she's done all over the state. There are many options. So, I mean, this one is kind of easy to do because it's already done, but we also don't want to just do something quick because it's easy. And so I wanted to just bring it to you guys, because then you'll take that on and decide if that's what we want to do. We did have a community meeting. It just lined up with the school district where we are having, I think many of you came. It's like a coffee chat with parents, and we already had our director of special education going to be there. So that's when we invited the developer and the families, and I did a printout of the sticker chart they did, and Jennifer from Game Time just kind of wanted to see what was important to them. So you can see like theme is the least important, but it looks like accessible for all ages, so not just for little kids, but older kids also, and shade seemed to be the biggest idea. I know that for many grants you have to have community meetings, so I thought this might be helpful in moving forward. And Game Time also told me that West Star, the developer, cannot apply, but the city can. From August through October each year, they have a grant cycle where if you're awarded a grant, they pay 50% of the cost of the play equipment, as long as it's not customized. So if we did something like Dollar Horse, that's customized, but they could do a 50% matching grant. So I talked to the developer. He seemed to think that they would be ready like mid to late 2025 to put in the park. They have to put the houses in first. And then the park, I talked to our city manager. He thinks that maybe 2 years would be a better projection of when it would be done. They're still going through the annexation process. The developer does have to pay per house $2,900 towards a park. There's 96 houses there. His estimate with other fees where his portion would be $300,000 towards that park. That would include the infrastructure, parking, play equipment, all of those things. So that's kind of a ballpark of where we would be as far as money, but also like a grant, maybe having the city apply for a grant would be helpful also. So I just wanted to bring that to you, and I'm happy to help anyway. I just kind of got some of the conversations that you've already had, just going with the developer, knowing that it was coming. But I think then it would be up to the commission and Adam to move forward. That's something that you thought was good for our community.
And with that, we're going to pass it over to the commission for discussion or questions. We'd happy to answer anything that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. I was able to attend that, and it was really awesome. I think a lot of us were able to attend it, but it was really good. I was super excited to hear about this project. I know we have discussed just small pieces of equipment, but seeing a park that would have a variety of equipment dedicated towards an all-inclusive environment, I think is much needed in our community. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, when I was talking to some of the other community, not only just looking at the chart, but sat at a few of the tables and was able to talk, and there was a lot of people that were excited. There was grandparents that were excited to also be able to engage with their kids. So the thought of this, not only just for the kids, but also for adults. When I was talking to some of the reps there, the adults would also be able to participate and interact with their children, and that might not normally be able to spend that time with their grandkids or their children. And I just think that's amazing. And then the other big part for me is, for me and my family, having a park like this in our community, being able to allow my children to interact with other children. I think that's huge. Having a park that my kids can share with others that might have various disabilities, whether they're seen or unseen, I think is very important. For me as a parent, and seeing this in our community, I think would be amazing on many levels.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody else have any comments?
Oops, hello. Yeah, I think this is Jen, and I think it's great, and I'm excited, and yeah, I think being inclusive is great, especially, with the children, and I think that's awesome, so I'm all for it.
I concur.
Is this the time to ask questions about the grant and such too?
Yeah, we can. If I have an answer, if Laura has an answer, we can
Yeah.
definitely try to.
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I love the idea of the collaboration and the partnership between the developer and then Spirit Horse, and it's great. So, if it's feasible, it's 2 years. Would we still want to apply for a grant this year, just because of the time it might take to get a grant? Or do you know if they have a stipulation on how soon you have to use it?
Yeah, so we had just had that discussion earlier too. We'd have to look to see at Game Time's grant process. I know their calendar year, or their fiscal year, so they happen every year. It might be too soon for us to apply for one now. There's a lot of unknowns at this point. What kind of playground we're going to have, what are the amenities going to include, what's the price range that the city is comfortable saying, hey, this is something we can just in general with the one at Spirit Horse, I think they were requesting over $550,000 just for the playground itself. And we have dedicated funding from the developer to come in and say, hey, we want to do this, but we have to realize that those fundings also have to go for the actual creation of the park. So we'd like to kind of get a subcommittee together, hopefully from this commission, to kind of start the ball rolling, maybe meeting with the Game Time representative, going over some ideas that, might be able to be incorporated, especially with the space that's allotted, and then kind of go from there. Just to kind of see. But yes, I think the sooner we apply for a grant process, even if they were willing to hold it for the next coming year, I think that's definitely a discussion we can have with Game Time, just when they know that the project is coming. And sometimes the city can't control, how or when they get started. We've seen that with all our other projects, right? Dog Park has taken us a while. So they might just have that understanding that, yes, this is a project, this is an award, and may be able to extend the the grant amount for 2025, 2026 time period.
Well, I was wondering too, seeing the location of the park in Phase 5, if the park could be done even sooner than, the 96 houses.
So based on our economy, we never know like if all houses are going to sell or not. So the park has to go in last because of the amount of money that he has to give per house. I asked that same question.
The money that the developer has to give per house, is that going towards the park? I'm not understanding that.
Yes, it's towards the park. So the 300,000 is only towards the park.
Okay.
But that includes like the grass, the sidewalk, the parking, sprinklers, like everything, including play structures, all of that. It's a good starting point.
I loved how interested the developer was in this whole process, including making sure there was enough parking for other people to come from Kingsburg so that they're not parking in front of other people's houses. She has everything thought out because I spent a lot of time talking to her, and she thought of all those details.
So this picture, or which was, you said like what Spirit Horse had developed, what's the cost of that? You said 500,000?
They said 4 to 5, but if you scroll down a little bit, I think there's a few other pictures.
Okay,
Be
but we need
further.
$500,000, I saw that.
Right, if you go a little further, you can see there, but you can click on pictures. But I know their fundraising, they were asking for 500, but when I talked to them, I think it was just over 400,000. But there's a second part to theirs. It's not just that main play structure. There's the swings, the cover.
Are they fundraising now?
After they didn't get the grant, I saw a fundraiser button on there. So, yeah. Is it the top? Oh, yeah. And I think it said 500,000. I think if you go up right there.
So then my next question is so their plan regardless is they're going to continue to fundraise, or
They're going to
likely-
try to
okay.
get something out there, yes.
And then I understand that this 300 from the developer includes like the parking and everything. Is there any estimate on that? I mean, I know pricing fluctuates with everything, cement, nails,
So
lighting.
the way that it's been done with their other, Kings Estates this would be their phase 5. So they're working on their phase 4, I think, currently. And so what we've seen with the Nelson Park and the Viking Park, which are the two new ones in their developments, they've set aside a certain amount for the play structure alone, and usually it ranges between $75,000 to $125,000, give or take, just depending on the size. Again, allotted size, right? Like if the park is only the size of this council room, there can only be so much that can fit in. So I think they're willing to kind of work with us on what we'd like to see as an inclusive playground, but it's going to depend on what size lot they have available for the park. So historically, between $75,000 to $125,000 is what they would put aside historically for a play structure, not for the landscaping, not for the pickleball courts or any of that. It's usually just set aside for that. So at least we know somewhere around there what they might be dedicating already to the play structure, and then that would go with, and the commission would work together to come up with an idea or what they'd like to see. That'd go to council, and then council would work with finance committee and all other working pieces to figure out where the funding would come from to figure out how to get this funded. So I think our job here as the commission is just kind of going forward and taking the project on from Laura and from those that have already started the project, and then having this commission see it finish through and making the recommendations to council on what they'd like to see, and then go from there. So all positives. I think they're, I think the community is all for it, and I think Laura has mentioned that. I think if we present this to council, I don't think there's a single council member that's going to decline the idea of having something like this in the community. So that's kind of a positive that we can work with. So for tonight, if we'd like to establish, or if anyone's interested, a subcommittee for this project, I think that's the appropriate next step. This way we can probably get a meeting together with our Game Time MRC rep to kind of go over some ideas and maybe some other features that is not included with this one. This one is obviously more of a Spirit Horse kind of design and theme. It's kind of farm-based. Color templates and all that don't really match what the city would provide to a community park, and that's where, again, this commission would come in and making sure that it's, all community inclusive and somehow tied to our other parks. So that would probably be one of the big steps for this group, is to kind of see the overall design put together. So
They had an orchard theme that was amazing. And that's kind of towards the Blossom Trail.
you had mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier.
But I mean, Jennifer from Game Time, whoever this is on the subcommittee, can show you all ranges of different ones that they've done. I don't know, when you have subcommittees, can it only be people on the commission?
No,
Okay,
it can be
'cause-
open.
Okay, I have 3 parents of students or kids in our community that would benefit, that would like to be a part of that I can share with whoever the subcommittee is, their contact info.
Yeah, I think we can go from there.
I would love to volunteer to be on the subcommittee.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm happy to be on, because it's 3 members on
Three
this?
members. Three members of the commission. Yep.
Okay. So I'm happy to be on the subcommittee as well. And Jen, and then do we have another?
What is that?
So a subcommittee, we're
Yeah, I mean, what does that entail exactly?
meetings, it's meetings.
Meetings, just,
Yeah, meetings,
Like
discuss, just
Yeah.
like this, more frequently than this, usually.
I think Kathleen said yes. So
Okay.
we'll have our 3, but yeah, so we could go from there and, so what we'll do is then we'll just meet with our reach out to Game Time rep and kind of figure out what a good schedule is for the 3 of you and kind of meet with them, and then we'll include the parents. We'll have Laura reach out and send those contacts over, and we could probably do a community workshop with them and kind of get the ball rolling. So
And
once we get some,
I love the idea of parents too, and casting the net wider, especially when we get into a fundraising campaign.
Yes.
Having more people involved like that.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. And then, because you had mentioned about Spirit Horse is still going to do their project on their private property still. So they're still fun. So any funds that they personally raise are dedicated towards their private property.
which is good, because then that means that design-wise, maybe we
Yeah.
kind of walk away a little bit from
But they're-
their aspects and
Yes.
create something a little different.
And their space is a lot smaller than this potential park space too. But yeah, so they're still fundraising. They're still doing theirs on their private property.
Don't they have horses too? Don't they do something? So they have the horses over here, and then they have the park over here, and
Yeah, they have a
Kinda
lot on their
together.
property. Yeah.
they're all together in the same location, or?
10 acres.
Oh, okay.
Big property. But yeah, so because you had mentioned about that, so they're still fundraising, but that won't be part of our stuff here. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited about this. Good. Any other questions? No? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. Okay. Item number 5, dog park update. Dog park update financial analysis by City Engineer Dave Peters and report by Community Service Director Adam.
All right. Well, Dave Peters wasn't able to attend tonight, but we do have more progress, and it's been a while since we've met on the dog park. So we did advertise for the Laurel Street Dog Park, or the Kingsburg Dog Park Improvement Project, for bids starting in May. So May 17th was when the bidding process opened for the dog park, and on June 13th, the city received 7 responses from contractors for the project, with their base bids starting from $950,000 to $1.4 million. Give or take between the 7. So the engineers worked together with the city, and they took it to council, awarding a bid to Donberry Construction for the project. So the project has been bidded and awarded, which is great news for construction and going forward. City estimate is assuming between July and August, where ground will be broken and the project will start rolling. If you've gone out there recently, you'll notice there's a sign on the fence that says Prop 68, Kingsburg Dog Park coming soon. It's got a light rendering of what the park will potentially look like. So with that, that's kind of where we're at standing currently. The analysis that we have in front of you is the packet with some stapled pages, and really we want to draw our eyes to the amount of the project. We have to remember the grant was awarded 2 years ago, and so from getting to that point to this point, obviously things have changed. And so when the numbers came back to the engineer on the project total, we could see that the numbers drastically increased from probably a two years time. And so the initial analysis, which is the front page, is $1.6 million to get the project done completely. And knowing that our grant amount was 1.24. So obviously higher than what we anticipated, or higher than the city had funding available for the project. So with that, we had to kind of go through and figure out what was going to work, keeping the grant scopes intact. So that's what you find on page 2. Page 2 kind of shows you the grant estimate for the elements of the park. These are required for the project. When we submitted the grant 2 years ago to the state, we told them there'd be landscaping throughout the park. We told them there'd be lights throughout, new restrooms, shade structures, an all-weather walking track, play structures, and of course the pre-construction costs. So those were the elements that had to stay in the grant, and so the actual cost for each of those elements was this next column over. So that's kind of where you see where the additional funding kind of increased. So there were elements of the park where it just came in a lot more expensive than we had told the state it was going to cost us to do the project. And so again, with that, the engineer was able to kind of go through and restructure it. So we are going to do the project. All elements are going to be included. Essentially, the numbers will fluctuate, and we're going to kind of be a little more flexible on some of the amenities. Obviously, like the brick wall fence that was requested, saying, hey, we want a brick wall fence to go across the thing, that was dropped out. It was one of the price items that wasn't a requirement for the grant, and so it was costing way more than was expected. So he was able to remove that. The lighting along the park, this commission had talked about, track lighting around the entire walking track, solar lighting so that it was well lit throughout the evening, early morning hours. You're still going to see portions of that, but it's not going to be 28 lights around the track. So they're going to work with a number that fits within this budget to get us to what the number the state says it's going to cost us. So we're going to see certain areas where it's not going to be as grandiose as we'd liked it to have been, but it's still going to be a really great regional dog park. We're still have all the elements required for the state. Yes.
Now, they don't do any fundraising for the city parks, correct?
No.
Because I thought it was interesting. A friend of mine got $1 million from Lowe's for a park. So, maybe PetSmart, or maybe somebody might, or these fundraising opportunities, people can look at some of those places.
Yeah, so that would come from the city, that would come from my department, just like Prop 68 was a grant cycle that this commission worked with us and try to figure out how to get money for this project to go forward. So we could potentially see that. Obviously, this is not an end-all for the park. It's the beginning. I know we did fundraising for the the skate park. So there are opportunities for us to expand the project and to get everything we want, hopefully in the future. But as of right now, just because of a funding constraint and saying that the state is only saying we have this, we did reach out to the state rep to see if we could get additional funding, because not all projects the state awarded are going forward. We know there are certain cities in California that have dropped their projects altogether, and so we just assumed maybe there's additional funding that we could seek. And because it's a competitive grant, it doesn't work that way, so it's not like it's just kind of sitting there. So we are working with them. Like I said, groundbreaking, July and August of this coming summer, which is great. Expecting to kind of get it all completed maybe by November, December, and kind of go from there. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I know the numbers are a little different, but these were the analysis presented by Dave Peters to council, and of course to the Community Services Department. So with that, that'll conclude that, and like I said, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I was just curious on page 3, do we know who's building it? Because it looks like there's different bids.
Yeah, so bid 1, the number 1.
Oh, number 1,
is on
okay.
there. Yeah, that's Don Berry Construction.
Oh.
And those are they went off of the base bids. So they compared all 7 of the base bids and went for the lowest, most comparable to what the state was requesting, and that was the one that came in. So I think they have a great reputation in town. We've used them for a lot of other projects, so we're excited just to continue to work with them. So.
Cool. Any other questions? No, not yet.
I provided the first page just so that you can see kind of, because it was kind of mind-blowing to me where the money actually goes. When they first told me that there wasn't enough funding for it, and I said, well, look, give me the breakdown. Like, finally show me something that shows me the numbers of where this money is going and why it costs so much to develop a park. And so I spent a lot of time looking at page 1 just because it shows me each category of where things are going, how many items of which are being, being spent or requested, and so it does add up quickly. I mean, realizing that it does take a lot, I guess, even on the government scale to build a community park or recreational area. It's not, and I think we saw that with the sports complex conversation. It takes a lot to put something like this together. So, but
The lighting and the shade structure, those just look like those are really expensive for those.
And so those are areas that we've kind of had them come down. So the actual cost of the park still remains the same. It's the 1.6. So working with those 2 elements, and it's funny that you saw those 2 there because those are the 2 that have some flexibility.
Yeah.
Because when we told them you could do, we just built one, or we're going to build one at the pool. I think going rate is like 30,000, 29, 30,000, something like that. So those numbers we were able to adjust down. Again, it's the total project cost is still the 1.6. Now it's how does the city make it so where it's closer to the 1.24. And so lighting is going to be an area we can address because we still have to include it in the park, but there's not a detailed plan on how to include it. Same goes with the shade structures. I mean, it says shade structure, but to what size, what element, what materials are being used to get them out there are a little different. And these numbers are generated by an architect, which is different than our engineer, which is different. I guess from what it was explained to me, a different element altogether. An architect will do the design and say they wanted to do this beautiful community engaged park, but the engineer takes it back and says, hold on, well, all that's going to cost, X amount. So again, that's kind of where the city's going to have to play around and figure out how to get all the elements included with the money that we have to spend for the park.
So for the lighting, is it like street lights like you see on an actual street? Is that the type of lighting that?
So originally where it says it has 19 for lighting, I think there was like 19 different elements for lighting. Those were the lights around the track, and they were 4-foot pillar lights that went around. They were more aesthetically pleasing than anything else to kind of go around. And then you had the exterior lights near the parking lot, and then you had the big pole ones that kind of oversee and so that will be downgraded. We had conversations about not wanting the park to be used after dark anyway. There was going to be a time limit where it was going to be open. Our concern was more early morning hours, having the park open at 5 a.m. so that people could go early in the summer when it's not too hot, but still have some kind of ambient lighting out there so that they're not just walking around in the dark. So, like I said, that and those element designs will still come to the commission when we get to that point. If there are any additional questions, the play structure is not. Remember the conversations in the past is not an actual kids play structure. There are recreational elements for dogs. So as long as we can kind of play around with what we'd like to see out there, and those details are still to come. So we're still, once we get to that point, figure out, hey, what can we fit with the price range and what do we want it to look like, and that's still a decision that we have to make. So
Tractor tires. Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. excited about seeing that one going too. Yes. Okay. Item number 6, Kingsburg Healthcare District Grant Agreement Update. Report by Community Service Director Adam.
Yep, last update, the healthcare district, because we haven't met in a while, the grant cycle was concluded in May. So we were able to submit, the city was able to submit some grants. We had one from the Community Services Commission that the council had chosen to go forward with, and that was the hot meal program for seniors. Being able to cook in-house in Kingsburg site, walking away from the county contract, and just providing the seniors with home-cooked meals that, they would enjoy. And so that was awarded. So the healthcare district said, yes, it's definitely a project they'd like to see go forward. So that was an award that was presented to us. It still has to go to council for approval, and we're still kind of in the contracting phase. But that was the one project that they decided was gonna kind of go forward. So we're excited about that. The new kitchen project they paid for, the senior center kitchen, is over $200,000. That's currently being remodeled now. If you have a chance to stop by and kind of take a look, it's, everything's been removed from the kitchen space. I think they installed the hood yesterday, and the new kitchen equipment will be coming in the next couple weeks. So once that's done, the city staff will have a new kitchen to operate out of, and then we'll start, hopefully, as long as council agrees to go forward with the contract, then we'll start doing the home-cooked meals for seniors. And that should be great. I mean, all the seniors are excited about it. When we did it during COVID, we were, estimated between 60 to 70 seniors that would come on a daily basis to have lunch with us. Then we contracted back with the county after COVID, and it dropped to 20 to 30 seniors. So obviously there are seniors that still need the meals, that still want, but the quality wasn't there to attract them to come back. And when we don't see the seniors at the senior center, it only leads to other problems down the road. This gives us our opportunity to kind of engage with them, see them on a regular basis, interact with them, give them that opportunity to kind of, be with each other. And then me and my staff as well being able to check on them. Because when we don't see so-and-so for so long, then we know either something's wrong or, or they're dealing with something. So it gives us that opportunity to kind of check back in with them. So definitely the more seniors we see on a regular basis, the better off our community is. So with that, that's just the current update for that. And still working on other grant projects. But we'll get more updates when we see you guys hopefully next month. If this commission decides not to go dark, but we'll discuss that after that. So,
awesome. Thank you so much. Excited about that project too. Okay. Item number 7, unscheduled matters for the commission members for discussion only. Action may not be taken. Items must appear on the agenda as a specific item to be acted upon. Any commissioner have any comments or anything?
Yeah, I think very last meeting, I think in April, I noticed that the vice chairperson is empty, and I was wondering
Yes.
how that works, and I would
Yes.
love to volunteer or
Yeah. So
however
it is volunteer based, but you do have one open seat. We do have a couple of applications that the mayor has to choose and select the next commissioner. Once that seat is filled, then we can go from there and have them rearrange. I know Sarah's been chairperson for a while. If she chooses to stay in that role, that's great, but it gives an opportunity for other commissioners that if you guys would like to rearrange, you're more than welcome to. And so that will take place at the next meeting. But with that also going forward, there has always been historically where this commission goes dark for a certain period of time. I know it's summer. I don't know what your schedules are like. If the majority of you are still here for July and August, then we'll continue to host the meetings on the 4th Wednesday of the month. But if you guys or the majority of the commission is not going to be around, then we can skip a month, even though we've skipped a lot of months already. So it's no need to skip another. But I know council has a meeting in July that they won't be attending, so they've canceled the first meeting in July, along with I think planning and public safety. So just again up to you. If not, then we can schedule the July meeting. So
Awesome. Any other comments? No? Okay. Awesome. Well, I just want to say I think this meeting was super positive, super exciting. Just hearing Laura's presentation, the presentations that Adam gave, just makes me really happy to be part of the community and seeing the care for the kids and the playground structure, and then all the way to our seniors, and how much just compassion is out there for our community. So, that really makes me super happy. So, Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And item number 8, we will adjourn our meeting. Okay, do you have a motion to adjourn? Okay, and a second.
Second.
Okay. So 6:13.
Yeah, yeah. Huh? Oh, got it. You just say, okay, we're done, goodbye. They all run a little different. I mean, because I run this one like I used to run the chamber meetings. Because there's always a lot of talking. It was always because I was the director and the president at one point, and so like all the agenda items were just me talking. Because like the board members really weren't. They're not involved enough to say, go give your treasurer's report or give me a report on, like they're not. And so it kind of feels the same with this, is that, they're involved when I need them to be.